Hello.
Hello.
Is everyone all set? Good to go? Very good. Well, good afternoon. Many of you will recall that the most heartbreaking thing about the recent rain events and flooding here in the southeast and elsewhere was hearing from those homeowners whose homes had flooded not once, not twice, but in some cases 3 times over the last 10 years, in some cases twice this year alone. And at the time, what everyone said to us, homeowners, local government, was they didn't just want to build back. They wanted to build back better. They didn't want us to force people to move back into homes that would flood again. And so what we've been working to do is to make sure that we can support homeowners and their insurers where they're insured to do that building back better, to raise the home above the flood level where that's possible, to retrofit it with non-porous building materials that are water resistant and can be easily cleaned after a flood. And in no small number of cases where homes are probably in locations where homes shouldn't be, to buy those homes back. You'll recall we committed hundreds of millions of dollars to that. We were able to secure matching funding eventually from the Commonwealth. And so today we are opening registrations for the Home Resilience Fund. This fund will support those whose homes were flooded to raise their homes, to retrofit them, and where necessary to buy them back. We've worked very closely with insurers and the building industry to develop a program that will work. There are very few examples of this being done at the scale that we are proposing anywhere in the world. It's a very complex task. Every home is different, every suburb is different, the flood risks for them all are different, and so we are determined to have a program that allows us to work with each individual property to assess what is the most appropriate way to mitigate their flood risk and make them more resilient. So that we can deliver the best possible outcome for the funding that we have available. So the message today to Queenslanders is if you were affected by this flooding event and you would like to access this program, please go online now and register so that we can work with you and support you. We have the Public Works Minister, Mick de Brenni. The program will be administered by his department. Major General Jake Elwood can talk to you about his work developing a recovery plan, meeting with communities and how he sees this program working. Brendan Moon from the Queensland Reconstruction Authority, who really deserves a lot of credit for helping us to put this program together. And then Sally and Kirsty, 2 homeowners affected by the flood, able to tell you their story and how we hope this program can support them getting back into their homes. So, Mick.
Thank you, Deputy Premier. As you heard from the DP, this truly is a nation-leading program to get Queenslanders like Sally and Kirsty back into their homes quicker and safer when the worst weather strikes. And we've also heard that the registration portal is now open, so we're asking Queenslanders that have been affected by the recent flood events to register today. We'll also be proactively reaching out to homeowners. So we'll start the rollout with an industry and community education campaign because we understand that many of those homeowners are displaced. So we'll be ringing them, we'll be checking with neighbourhood recovery groups and local councils. We'll also, of course, have translation services for those who need it and work with people who can't access that technology at the moment. Throughout the course of the program, registered homeowners will receive regular updates and be notified at each stage. So once registered, eligible applicants will be contacted directly to arrange an assessment of the damage and the works required to their property. We'll discuss with them their individual situation because, as the Deputy Premier has said, every home is unique. And we'll discuss with them the options that they have under the scheme. We'll be building on the experience that we do have in rolling out similar schemes, albeit smaller ones. Our household resilience program improved homes across Queensland's cyclone belt, which drove down insurance costs for Queenslanders as well. And we're confident that this scheme can go some way to doing that. We want to know what Queenslanders say best fits them: retrofit, raise or voluntarily buy back. The scope of works for the two programs in the scheme, the Resilient Household Rebuild Program and the House Raising Program, will include guidelines about what work the funding will be able to cover. So we've designed a scope of works, and we've done this working closely with insurers, building construction industry experts, including architects and local councils, including the Brisbane City Council. That means that there'll be consistency of application, meaning whether your home is in Bundamba or Gympie or Milton, you'll get the same level of support. The government will then review the quotes that come in to ensure costs are fair and reasonable and that the scheme delivers value for money. The house raising program will also offer grants to homeowners to raise their home to elevate their livable areas of the dwelling above the defined flood level as defined by their local government authority. And as part of that assessment process, homeowners will also receive detailed information about their options to help them make their own decisions. So the key message today for affected homeowners is to register. We look forward to supporting those Queenslanders who've been through the trauma of those recent floods. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So over the last number of weeks, I've travelled to all 23 local government areas affected by the South East Queensland floods, and I've met hundreds of people impacted. Some, I must say, some stories are uplifting, seeing people get back to their lives, others much more tragic. I am pleased to report that many homeowners and businesses are getting back on their feet, and it's great to see, and it hasn't been easy, but we have a very resilient community. But there are still parts of the community that are very vulnerable, and we're doing all we can to reach out to them and support them. I would also like to just highlight that our rural areas, some are struggling significantly as a result of firstly drought, then COVID, and now flooding, and additional rain at the moment is very concerning for them. I've got to say I'm massively optimistic about the Resilient Homes program, and it really does have the potential to change lives. I've got no doubt about it. And I encourage those who are considering it to register their interest. When I talk about the potential to change lives, I think about the many that I've met over the last few weeks. And a couple came to mind. You know, there was a young family in Walter Taylor Ward, and uninsured, and over the last number of weeks they have worked tirelessly to get their home back in order. They've moved back in, and that's to be applauded. But this house has been flooded 3 times, and today it's no more resilient than it was yesterday, so they carry the very same risk, and why they don't have a choice at the moment. So they've just done what they could do, which was get it back to where it was. And then I think of a single mum that I met in Burpengary, and she's had, I've got to tell you, she's had a whole lot of challenges in her life. But she's also been inundated 3 times, her house has been. And when I asked her, had you contemplated selling, she said to me, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing I'd pass that problem on to someone else. I think it speaks volumes about her, but it speaks about the problems that are in front of the community. However, I met an older gentleman in Goodna who has lived in the same house for over 30 years. He's been inundated 3 times, and he said to me, I'm going to stay here, my wife and I, we're going to stay here until the very end because we love this place and we love our community. So at the end of the day, it will be about choices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Major General. Brendan Moon, Chief Executive Officer of the Queensland Reconstruction Authority. I think today you've heard some compelling stories of our experiences that we are hearing from the front line of flood-impacted communities, and the importance of not only supporting people's recovery and their rebuilding of their homes, but also starting to deal with the flood risk that they experience year on year. And for many of those people, 3 times in the last decade has had a massive impact on them and their family and the way they live their lives. Today we are calling on all Queenslanders whose homes have been damaged as a result of the wet weather and the flooding of this year to register their interest in the Resilient Homes Fund. The sheer magnitude of this event, we've seen over 7,000 homes damaged by flooding as a result of the events this year, has seen some 37 local government areas activated for support under this program. And that extends from Flinders in the north all the way through to the Gold Coast and as far west as Gundawindi. So we are asking people today to register their interest and to tell us what is important and what does they need to support their recovery here. Is it a retrofit? Is it a home raising? Or are they asking us to consider a buyback? And what's important in this registration of interest process, it will allow us to get an understanding of where people's recovery is at and what is important for them in their own region. Because that is what we have seen as a result of these floods, is each community's needs are very different, and this registration of interest process will allow us to better understand that, and it will guide the completion of the guidelines so that we can actually tailor the program to deal with those more vulnerable and those with the greatest flood risk. So it's really important for us that people register online if they can. And for those people who are confronted with big decisions about what the best path is for them, that's okay. We will have specialist teams available to assist you in making that decision. Thank you.
Just say something quick.
Okay. I'm Kirsty. My house was affected by the floods in February. Kirsty Inch. Inch? Insch. My house was impacted in the floods this year, first time for me. I know lots of people have been through this a couple of times, and I can't imagine doing it twice.
What will it do? Would you look at showing your home?
I'm probably in a position where I'd be interested in the buyback scheme because, as I said, it's a lot. I've been in my home for 6 years, so I've got 4 young children who are a little bit scared to return home, so I've got to think about their well-being as well.
You just don't want to go through it again?
No, don't want to do it again. So this looks really exciting, even just in raising homes and making them more resilient, because I know that my neighbours may not be in the same circumstances that I'm under, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what we're working with this package, because I think it will be beneficial to me.
And you haven't gone back in? Did you say you're living elsewhere at the moment?
I'm living with extended family. Thankfully, they've been able to take us in, and that's a drain on them too, but you know, I'm lucky I've got extended family who can look after me and my kids.
Where's your home?
My home's in Goodna.
Thank you.
My name's Sally. This is the second time my home has been inundated by flood. It did happen in 2017, and it's happened again this year. It has been quite. We're in the home for 35 years, and both my husband and I are in our 70s, so we're undecided what we should do. But we are insured, so the home will be fixed. But I don't know what the future is, whether when the next flood's coming, should we stay or what we should do. So I think this package is certainly worthwhile considering. We would definitely consider it, which option we'll take.
You don't know yet whether you'll sell or retrofit your home?
Well, we are insured, so the insurance is it's under repair at the moment, or well, it's not. The repairs haven't started. They're still doing what they call the strip out, and it processes before they start to rebuild. But we are insured, so the insurance most likely will complete the work. Okay, thank you.
So what was your surname?
Trainer, T-R-A-Y-N-O-R.
How will the buyback scheme actually work? And also on a case-by-case basis, but in terms of the amount of money residents get, will it be market value? What type of situation we're talking about?
Yeah, I'll ask Brendan to go into some more detail. You saw when we announced the initial funding what we expected the average buyback price will be, and so we've based it on our expectation of around 500 properties, where that's the most appropriate outcome. Brendan?
So in terms of the buyback process, it very much follows buybacks that have been conducted before. Is through getting an understanding of the personal situation of a particular homeowner, and then also taking into account flood risk at that property. So if there is severe risk associated to life and also to structural integrity of that structure, we will move through a process to identify those priority homes. We are working very closely with local government in this space right now. They possess a lot of the detailed modelling and a lot of the detailed understanding of flood risk at a granular level. So that process is happening as we speak. In terms of the process as well, it will require an independent valuation of the property, and where agreement can be reached, there will be a transaction. Obviously, the home will be demolished, and also the land we are looking to rezone, not for future urban habitation. But we are still working through the details of this, and as I said, this has been done in 2011 following the Grantham buyback, and also as recently as 2019 in the Callide Valley.
And
Thank you.
once people register, what's the next step? And how soon can people find out if they have been successful approval?
So when people register, we will have teams reach out to them so that we can then get an understanding of people's personal circumstances, and then we will arrange a specialist assessor to go and do a home inspection. So at this stage we are now gathering that information, and then we are working through that process, and as soon as we have that to hand, and that's why the registration of interest is so important for us, we can then task teams to start that conversation with homeowners.
And how soon do you get that?
Well, we are running through the registration of interest process right now. It has just been opened today. So as soon as we start to get that information through, we will start tasking teams.
And does that 750 match from Canberra, does that go into the same pool, or is that used separately, or is it just extended over?
So it's a $741 million program. It is matched 50-50 by the Commonwealth. So it is for 5 essential elements here. One is the community education piece, there is the home raising, there is also the retrofit, the buyback, and also a community flood information portal. Now, we have built into the program flexibility where there is significant demand in one particular element of the project, where we'll be able to address that through the entire cap. Thank you.
Very good.
You've spoken before about shortage of tradespeople. How is the tradies in Paradise scheme involved?
I don't have an update on the scheme itself, but why wouldn't they? The chance to move up here, to live in beautiful Queensland, and to be part of our home resilience program. There'll be a lot of work here for tradies, and we're working with insurers as well as builders to make sure that the industry can deliver the work.
Is the government going to change the way ambulance ramping data is collated and reported?
No, the Health Minister was very clear that there's no intention to change that data.
She said there was no change at the moment. Can you rule out anything in the future?
Well, I'm not the Health Minister, but my understanding is that there is no intention whatsoever to change the way that data is reported.
The former governor just issued his report on the Reconstruction Council flooding response the other day. There was some talk in that about expanding the council's voluntary buyback scheme. Should the council be chipping in some money into this kind of package as well?
Well, certainly we'd welcome that, but we have based this package on what we think is needed in the wider South East Queensland region affected by this event. It's fully funded by the state and the Commonwealth. Anything else? Thank you all.
Well done.